The arena of Varnax Prime echoed with thunderous cheers. 1,000 alien species filled the stands, roaring for the final match of the grand galactic trials. In the center of the battlefield stood one man Reed of Earth, bloodied, bruised, but standing tall. Around him lay the unconscious bodies of the last 3 champions from other worlds. No one had expected a human to win. Earth was a new species in the Galactic Council, often seen as weak and emotional. But Reed had surprised them all with his speed, strategy, and raw determination. He fought not with advanced technology, but with his instincts, and those instincts had carried him to victory. Above the arena, a floating platform lowered. It held the Varnax High Council, robed in golden armor. The leader, a tall, 3-eyed figure named Corral, raised his hand. "Human warrior," Coral's voice echoed across the arena, "you have proven yourself. As champion of the trials, you may now claim your prize." Reed stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow. "I didn't come here for a prize," he said, his voice steady. "It is tradition," Corral replied. "You will receive one servant from the defeated side, a symbol of honor." Reed hesitated. The idea didn't sit right with him. Taking someone as a servant felt wrong. But he understood the rules. Refusing could offend the council and hurt Earth's standing. So he nodded once. From the shadows, 2 guards brought a figure forward. She was tall, with smooth silver skin and eyes that glowed like blue stars. Her black hair fell to her shoulders, and a metallic collar wrapped around her neck. She wore a simple tunic of dark cloth, and even though her hands were bound, she walked with pride in every step. "This is Lyra," one of the guards said, "from the Halari Dominion." "She is yours." Reed looked at her carefully. She didn't look afraid. In fact, her eyes were calm, even challenging. She stood straight, her chin held high. She didn't bow, didn't speak, just stared at him. "Unchain her," Reed said. The guards looked at each other. "She's your prize," one replied. "It is your choice, champion." I said, "Unchain her." Slowly, the guards obeyed. The metal cuffs dropped to the ground. Lyra rubbed her wrists but didn't thank him. She simply turned and walked beside Reed without a word. As they returned to his ship, the crowd cheered for Reed. But he wasn't smiling. Something felt strange. This wasn't how victory was supposed to feel. Back aboard his small cruiser, Reed activated the autopilot. They were heading toward Earth, but he kept glancing at the woman now sitting across from him in the ship's lounge. She hadn't spoken a single word since the arena. She just sat there, watching him with quiet eyes. There was no fear in her, only silence. "You don't have to act like a servant," Reed finally said. "I'm not that kind of person." Lyra blinked once. "You're not like the others," she said at last, her voice soft but strong. "But I know what I am to the council. A symbol." "You don't have to be anything you don't want to be," he said. "I'll take you somewhere safe. You can go free." "No," she said quickly, her eyes sharp now. "Not yet. I have work to finish." Reed frowned. "What kind of work?" She didn't answer. That night, while Reed pretended to sleep in the cockpit, he noticed movement on the control screen. Lyra had slipped into the control room. She moved quietly, touching parts of the ship's system that weren't meant to be touched. Reed kept his eyes closed, only watching through the small reflection in the metal panel. Lyra placed her hand against a hidden compartment on the wall. A light blinked. The panel slid open, and a small glowing device floated out. She pressed her palm to it, and a symbol lit up, a golden crown inside a star. Reed's heart skipped a beat. That wasn't just some servant's toy. That was a royal seal. He sat up, making a noise on purpose. The sound startled Lyra, and she quickly hid the device. But it was too late. Their eyes met. "I'm guessing you're not just a regular soldier," Reed said. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "No," she said. "I am Lyrana Vel of House Saren, first daughter of the fallen Halari throne." Reed blinked. "You're a princess?" "I was," she said quietly. until the traitors took everything from my family. I joined the trials to uncover their secrets. My capture was part of the plan. Reed leaned back in his chair, processing the weight of her words. A human had just won a galactic tournament and accidentally rescued a lost alien princess. The galaxy had no idea what was coming next. Reed sat quietly in the ship's cockpit, his eyes still locked on the strange symbol he had seen glowing from the secret device, the golden crown inside a star. It stayed in his mind like a shadow that would not fade. Lyra stood in the hallway, staring back at him. She looked calm, but he noticed a hint of worry in her eyes now. Maybe she had trusted him too much. Or maybe she had run out of time to hide her secret. "You're really a princess?" Reed asked again, his voice steady. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, I am the true heir of the Hilari Dominion." "My name is Lyrana Vel." Reed crossed his arms. "Why were you in the trials? You could have stayed hidden, safe somewhere." "I was supposed to stay hidden," she said. "But hiding doesn't save a kingdom. The people who betrayed my family, those who now sit on the throne, they work in the shadows. I needed to know who they were. The trials gave me a way in." Reed leaned against the control panel, thinking. "So, you let yourself get captured?" "It was part of the risk," Lyra said. "If I won, I would gain respect and move closer to the traitors. If I lost, I hoped someone decent would claim me. Someone who wouldn't sell me back to them." "And you think I'm that someone?" Lyra gave him a small, tired smile. "I took a gamble." Reed shook his head. "That was a dangerous gamble." She stepped into the cockpit, placing the glowing device back into its slot on her arm. It clicked and vanished under her skin. "Everything about my life is dangerous now." For the next 2 days, their ship traveled silently through hyperspace toward Earth. Reed sent a delay signal to the Council, saying he was resting after battle. But his mind was busy. Questions swirled in his head. Lyra spent most of her time in the ship's back room, quietly reviewing files from the Royal Seal device. Sometimes Reed would pass by and hear strange alien voices or see fast-scrolling screens in the Hilari language. He didn't understand them, but he could feel. The tension dropped finally. On the 3rd day, Reed walked in and said, "You need to tell me everything. If I'm involved now, I need to know the full story." Lyra looked up. Her silver skin shimmered in the soft ship light. She closed the files and motioned for him to sit. "The Hilari Dominion was once strong," she began. "We ruled a peaceful zone in the northern sector of the galaxy. My mother was queen, and she believed in peace and unity. But power draws enemies." She paused. "A group of nobles from within led by my uncle made secret deals with an alien arms cartel. They wanted control, not peace. One night, they attacked the royal palace. My parents were killed. I escaped with help from loyal guards." Reed listened without speaking. "For years I hid. Then I heard that the cartel had entered the grand trials, using false names. I joined under a fake identity, hoping to get close. But before I could find what I needed, I was defeated." "And handed to me," Reed said, finishing her sentence. Lyra nodded. "Now I have the information. My uncle is alive. He's ruling behind a puppet leader. And the cartel called the Garnuk Ring controls him." Reed whistled softly. "You've got quite the mess on your hands." She looked at him. "Seriously, it's not just about me. If the Garnuk Ring grows stronger, they'll take more worlds. Earth could be next." Reed stood and walked to the window, staring at the stars. "So what now?" Lyra came beside him. "We go to Karen Gate. It's a wormhole station, neutral territory. I believe one of my uncle's agents is there. He might have the final piece. I need to expose them." Reed looked at her and asked one simple question. "You trust me?" Lyra answered without hesitation. "I wouldn't still be alive if I didn't." They changed course that night. The ship's engines flared as Reed set a new route toward Karen Gate. It was a dangerous place full of traitors, spies, and pirates. But if Lyra was right, it could also be their best chance to uncover the truth. As they neared the outer edge of the star system, Lyra changed her clothes. She no longer looked like a servant or a captive. She wore a tight silver suit with light armor plating and a belt full of tools. She moved like someone trained for war. Reed noticed but said nothing. He adjusted his ship's scanners and looked over the control board. Suddenly, the radar lit up. 3 red dots. "Lyra," he said sharply. "We've got company." She rushed to his side. The screen showed 3 small hunter-class ships following them. "Bounty hunters," she said, voice cold. "How do they know?" She glanced at the royal device in her arm. "Someone leaked my identity. The reward must be high." The ships began firing. Reed gritted his teeth and took the controls. "You better buckle in, Princess," he said. "Time to show these aliens what a human pilot can do." The ship twisted and spun through asteroid fields. Reed flew like a wild storm, cutting through tight spaces, diving under rock bridges, flipping over fire trails. Lyra held on tight. Impressed by his strange but effective flying style, Reed activated an old Earth trick, releasing fake heat signals to confuse their missiles. It worked. 2 hunters exploded in the rocks. The last one stayed close. "Lyra," he shouted. "Can you shoot?" She was already at the turret. With one clean shot, she blasted the final ship out of the sky. Silence returned. Reed sat back, breathing hard. "Well," he said, smiling faintly, "we make a good team." Lyra smiled back. "I never doubted it." The damage to the ship was light, but Reed still checked every system twice. After escaping the bounty hunters, they had slowed down near a quiet moon to make repairs. Sparks came from one of the side panels as Reed worked with a tool in his hand. Lyra stood outside, looking at the stars. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were deep in thought. She held the royal seal in her palm, studying it again and again, like it might speak to her. Reed walked over, wiping his hands on a cloth. "The engine's fine," he said. "But next time we fight 3 bounty hunters, try not to break anything expensive." Lyra gave a small smile. "I'll try." He sat beside her on the metal steps. The silence between them felt heavier now, filled with unspoken truths. Reed broke it. "Tell me something. Why didn't you go to the council for help when your family was taken down?" Lyra looked down. "Because the council didn't care. They watched my people fall and said nothing. The Halari Dominion had few allies. We were peaceful and strong, but we didn't play their political games. So when we were attacked, no one stood up for us." Reed frowned. "That's cold. It's politics," she said. "In this galaxy, the truth is often buried under money, fear, and silence." Reed leaned back and stared at the sky. "So what are we doing now exactly? Flying into a nest of spies? Hoping your uncle's people don't blow us up before we find the truth?" Lyra turned toward him. "We're going to Karen Gate. There's a man there, a Hullary named Kale. He worked in the royal data vaults. If anyone knows where the traitors' secret records are hidden, it's him." Reed nodded. "Then let's find him." 12 hours later, their ship entered the outer zone of Karen Gate. It was massive, floating in space like a giant silver wheel, turning slowly. Hundreds of ships came and went from its docks. It wasn't controlled by any government. It was a free zone for traders, refugees, bounty hunters, and spies. The perfect place to disappear or to find trouble. Reed landed the ship in Dock 17. The docking officer, a 4-armed being with shiny red armor, scanned them but didn't ask questions. Everyone knew not to ask too much on Karen Gate. Reed and Lyra moved through the crowded halls. The station was noisy and full of strange smells: oil, smoke, spices, and sweat. Robots moved crates, aliens shouted deals, and neon signs blinked in every color. "I have an old contact here," Lyra said. He may know where Kale is hiding. They entered a dark room in the lower levels of the station. Inside, a one-eyed trader named Bren sat behind a metal table, chewing something green. He looked up. Lyra, I thought you were dead. I was nearly, she replied, but I need information. Bren leaned back. What's in it for me? Reed dropped a small energy cell on the table. Enough to power your shop for a month. Bren snatched it quickly. Kale's hiding in Zone 9, under the junk market. He runs a repair stall, calls himself Finn now, but he'll talk to you. They left at once. Zone 9 was dark and full of smoke. Old machines were piled high like mountains, and workers dug through them like treasure hunters. In the back corner, they found the stall. A Hillary man with white hair and metal arms was fixing a drone. Lyra stepped forward. Kale? The man froze, then looked up slowly. Lyra? He whispered. She nodded. It's me. He quickly pulled her inside and locked the door. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in hiding. There's no time for hiding, she said. The Garnock ring is growing stronger. They killed my family. I need proof to expose them. Kale looked nervous. I have files, yes. Secret backups from the palace. But they're hidden deep, on an old moon base, guarded. Then take us there, Reed said firmly. Kale stared at Reed. And who is this? Reed smiled. I'm the human who pulled her out of the trials. Call me her lucky charm, Kale sighed. All right, but if we're doing this, we move fast. I've heard whispers. The bounty on her has doubled. As they left the stall, Reed noticed shadows moving in the upper walkways. A group of armored figures had entered Zone 9. They were scanning faces. Time to go, he said. They ran through the market, dodging crates and traders. A blaster bolt hit the wall beside Reed's head. Lyra turned and fired back with perfect aim. 2 attackers fell. Kale led them through a secret tunnel, up a ladder, and into an old hangar. There sat a rusted shuttle. It still flies, Kale said. Just barely. They jumped in, and Reed took the pilot seat again. I've flown worse, he muttered as the engines roared to life. More bounty hunters poured into the hangar. Lyra and Kale fired from the windows while Reed lifted off. The ship shook, took 2 hits, then shot out into space. Once clear, Kale set a course for the Hilari Moon Vault, a secret location once used by the royal family. He looked at Lyra. If we get those files, and they prove what we think. What will you do? Lyra's voice was calm but strong. I will return. Not to take revenge, but to bring justice. I will expose the traitors, and I will rebuild what they tried to destroy. Reed looked at her with respect. She was no longer just a quiet servant or a hidden princess. She was becoming a leader, and Reed? He was ready to stand beside her, wherever this fight would lead. The old shuttle moved through deep space, away from Karen Gate. Its engines made a low humming sound, and a thin trail of smoke leaked from the left wing. Inside the cockpit, Reed kept both hands on the control sticks, eyes fixed on the star map. Beside him sat Kale, the former royal data keeper, now acting as guide to the moon vault where proof of betrayal waited. Behind them, Lyra checked her blaster while watching the radar screen. We're being followed, Lyra said, her voice calm but alert. Reed didn't flinch. How many? 2 ships, she replied. Small, fast. Kale cursed under his breath. They must have followed my signal. I was too slow to erase it. Reed narrowed his eyes. Then we do this the hard way. The enemy ships closed in. Sharp, black and red, shaped like curved knives. They fired warning shots that shook the shuttle. Get ready, Reed shouted. He twisted the shuttle sharply to the left, dodging 1 missile. The ship spun through a small asteroid field, using the rocks as cover. Lyra ran to the back gun and opened fire. Her aim was clean. She struck 1 hunter ship's wing, and it exploded in bright flames. The second one stayed close. They're trying to disable us, Kale warned. They want us alive. Then they're not trying hard enough, Reed sighed, pulling a sharp dive. The shuttle flew between two large asteroids, scraping one side. Lyra fired again, but missed. The enemy shot back. Sparks flew inside the cabin. We can't outrun them forever, Kale shouted. Reed smiled. We don't have to. He pressed a button and released old fuel tanks from the shuttle side. The moment the enemy passed by, Lyra shot them. The tanks exploded into a fireball, catching the last ship in the blast. The radar screen turned clear. 30 minutes later, the shuttle reached the Halari moon vault, an old military station hidden under the surface of a cold, dark moon. It looked abandoned from the outside, just a circle of metal buried under rocks. Kale guided them to the secret entrance. Only royal codes can unlock it. Lyra stepped forward. She pressed her hand against a flat panel. A soft blue light scanned her palm, and the ground rumbled as a door opened. Inside was a long hallway, dusty and cold. Reed led the way with a flashlight, while Lyra and Kale followed. The walls were covered in Halari symbols. This place was shut down when I was a child, Lyra said softly. I never thought I'd see it again. At the end of the hallway was a locked chamber with a metal console. Kale plugged in a small cube and entered several codes. Lights flickered and a large screen rose from the floor. The screen showed files, images, names, messages. One by one, the traitors were revealed. Lyra's uncle, Lord Renox, appeared in several of them. He was shown speaking with Garnock leaders, exchanging weapons for power. Other names followed: officials, military leaders, even a few council agents. This is it, Kale said. This is what you need. Lyra looked at the screen, her face firm. Then we send it to the galaxy. Kale hesitated. You'll be marked as a target again. I already am, she replied. Reed nodded. Let's do it. They connected the system to the ship's main comms and began sending the files to several trusted sources, independent news channels, Halari loyalist groups, and hidden contacts across neutral space. But just as the transfer began, a loud alarm echoed inside the base. Someone found us, Reed said. Kale checked the screen. Multiple life signs outside. At least a dozen soldiers. Heavy weapons. Lyra grabbed her blaster. They must have tracked the data signal. They want to stop the message. Reed pulled out his rifle. Then we make sure they don't. The team moved to the entrance. Dust and smoke filled the air. Outside, shadows moved, black-armored soldiers with glowing red eyes. Reed took cover behind a metal wall. We hold them here. Kale, stay with the console. Finish the transfer. Kale nodded and ran back. The soldiers began firing. Lasers flashed across the moon's surface. Reed fired back, picking them off one by one with sharp, careful shots. Lyra moved fast, jumping between cover and striking with perfect aim. One soldier got close, but Lyra used a small pulse bomb to knock him down. Reed shouted, "We've got 10 minutes to hold them." More enemies came. Reed was hit in the arm, but he kept fighting. Lyra ran to his side, helping him behind cover. "Don't be a hero," she said. Reed smiled through the pain. Too late. Just then, Kale's voice echoed through the comms. "The data's out. We did it." Lyra stood up and shouted to the soldiers, "It's over. The truth is out. Your leaders are exposed. If you continue this fight, you fight for nothing." There was silence. Then one by one the soldiers began to retreat. Later, back aboard the shuttle, Reed's arm was wrapped in bandages. Kale piloted. This time while Lyra sat beside Reed. "It started," she said. "The rebellion. The people know the truth now." Reed looked at her. "What happens next?" "We go to Myros 3, she replied. "There's someone there who can help. Gather the loyal Halari forces. We'll need every ally we can find." Reed nodded. "Then I'm with you, all the way." Lyra looked at him and placed her hand gently over his. "Thank you, Reed. I thought I was alone in this war. But now I know I'm not." As the shuttle flew into the stars, the first waves of change had already begun. The hidden war was no longer a secret, and the galaxy had just been reminded, never underestimate a human. The desert planet Myros 3 was dry, cracked, and full of dust storms. Red sand covered everything. Old buildings stood half buried in the dunes, and strong winds howled across the sky. Reed had never liked dry places. But Lyra said this planet was important. So he landed the shuttle just outside a large broken city in the middle of the desert. "This place doesn't look like much," Reed said, stepping onto the hot ground. Lyra nodded. "It looks dead, but there are people here. Fighters, old friends, survivors." Kale followed, holding a small data case. "If we want to take back the throne, we'll need them." The group walked into the ruins. Dust blew into their faces. Reed kept his hand on his blaster. Every window, every shadow felt dangerous. They reached a large hall, half buried in sand. Lyra knocked on the steel door 3 times. Then once more. Small window opened. 2 eyes stared out. Lyra spoke in her native language. The door opened slowly. Inside was a tall woman wearing gray armor and a long black scarf. Her face had scars, and her eyes were sharp. "Commander Juno," Lyra said with a small smile. Juno's eyes widened. "Lyra, you're alive?" They hugged quickly. "I thought you were dead," Juno said. "We all did. I almost was," Lyra replied. "But I'm here now. And I need your help." They sat around a long table inside the old base. Lights flickered above them. Other warriors gathered, men and women from many alien species. Some wounded, all armed. Lyra placed the royal seal on the table. It glowed softly. "The Garnuk ring killed my family," she said. "They took my throne, but we have proof now. The files Kale recovered show everything. My uncle works for them. They control the Dominion." The rebels murmured among themselves. Juno raised her hand. "If this is true, then it's time to act. But we can't win with words alone. We need soldiers, ships, supplies. We can start here," Lyra said. "If Myros 3 stands with me, others will follow." Juno looked at her. "You're not that quiet princess anymore, are you?" "No," Lyra said. "I'm ready to lead." That night, Reed stood on the roof of the base, looking out over the dusty horizon. Lights from small camps flickered in the distance. His arms still ached from the last battle, but he didn't mind. He felt something here, a sense of purpose. Lyra joined him. She wore a new set of armor, lighter than before, with her family's symbol on the chest. "You've changed," Reed said. "So have you," she replied. They stood in silence for a moment. "Do you think we can win?" she asked. Reed looked at her. "You've got fire in you, Lyra. You have people who believe in you. That's more than most have. So yes, I think we can." Lyra smiled, just a little. But then a loud noise broke the peace. An explosion rocked the base. Reed and Lyra ran down the stairs as alarms rang out. Smoke filled the halls. "They're attacking!" Someone shouted. Blaster fire echoed through the building. The walls shook. "Defensive teams, positions!" Juno yelled. Reed grabbed his rifle and followed Lyra to the west gate. Outside, small hover tanks rolled through the sand, and black-armored Garnuk troops charged forward. Kale must have been tracked again, Lyra said angrily. Reed took cover behind a low wall and opened fire. "We need to shut down whatever." "Signal they're following," Lyra nodded. "Go." "I'll hold this side." Reed didn't argue. He ran toward the comms room, dodging fire. He found Kale working quickly on the control panel. "They're jamming us," Kale said, "but I can stop the signal." "Do it fast," Reed replied, "or we'll be buried in the sand." Kale pressed several buttons. Sparks flew from the console. But the signal jammer shut down. Reed checked his comm. "Lyra, signal's clear." Her voice replied, full of tension. "Good, they're falling back." After an hour, the attack ended. Smoke rose from the ruins, but the base still stood. Several rebels were injured, but none had died. Juno stood beside Lyra. "That was just a test. They know you're here now. They'll come with everything next time." "Then we'll be ready," Lyra said. Reed walked over, wiping sweat from his face. "They want to break you before you start. That means they're scared. We need to hit back," Juno said. "Strike before they strike again." Lyra looked around the group. "I have a plan. We take this fight to Zerthar Prime. That's where Renox hides. That's where we end this." Kale looked unsure. "That's a dangerous place." "I know," she said. "But we have to go, before he buries the truth again." Later, Reed sat in the ship, checking his weapons. Lyra stepped in. "You didn't have to stay, you know," she said. Reed looked up. "I know. So why do you?" Reed smiled. "Because you're not just fighting for a throne. You're fighting for what's right. And I've always believed in that." Lyra sat beside him. "When this is over, what will you do?" "I don't know," he replied. "But for now I'm here." She looked at him quietly, then nodded. "Then let's end this together." As the rebels prepared for war, messages spread across the stars. Secret calls were sent to hidden allies. Ships were fueled. Weapons loaded. The truth was out. A lost princess had returned, and with her stood a human warrior, one the galaxy could no longer ignore. Together, they were lighting a fire in the darkness. The battle for the throne had begun. The sky over Zerthar Prime was dark and stormy. Huge clouds rolled across the city's silver towers. At the center stood the Palace of Light, once the home of the Halari royal family. Now it was cold and guarded by machines and soldiers who served Lord Renox, the traitor who took the throne. From orbit, Lyra's rebel fleet hovered just beyond the planet's defense zone. Inside the lead ship, she stood before a group of commanders, her armor shining with the royal crest. Reed, now wearing a dark tactical suit, stood at her side. "This is it," Lyra said, looking around the room. "We strike tonight. We go home." Commander Juno pointed to a map. "The palace is protected by force fields and anti-air guns. A direct attack will be difficult. That's why we won't attack from the air," Lyra replied. "We go in from below, through the old tunnels. My family's escape routes still exist beneath the city." Kale found the entrance codes. Reed added, "Our team will go in first, disable the shields, and open the gates for the rest." The room went silent for a moment. Then Juno nodded. "Let's take back what was stolen." The rebel team landed quietly in the lower city, dressed in cloaks. The streets were empty, patrolled only by drones. Reed led the way through the shadows, holding a scanner in one hand and a blaster in the other. Kale unlocked a metal grate behind an old marketplace. They climbed down into the tunnels, dark, wet, and filled with echoes. The air smelled of rust and dust. "These tunnels were built during the First Hilari War," Lyra whispered. "Only the royal family knew every path. Good thing we brought one," Reed replied with a smile. They moved for over an hour through tight spaces and forgotten doors, until they reached the underside of the palace. Above them, the throne room waited. Kale hacked into the power grid while Lyra and Reed covered him. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from behind. Reed turned fast. 3 guards had found them. A short fight broke out. Blasters fired. Walls sparked. Reed took one down. Lyra disarmed the second, and Kale used a shock tool to stop the last one. "Are we clear?" Reed asked. Kale nodded, wiping sweat from his face. "Shields down. Main gate is unlocked." Lyra spoke into her comm. "Juno, move in." From the skies, the rebel ships descended quickly. They landed near the palace walls, and soldiers rushed out. With the shield down, the outer guards were caught off guard. Blaster fire filled the city's center as the two sides clashed. Inside the palace, Lyra's team moved fast. They split into two groups. Kale and Juno led the rebel troops through the upper halls, while Reed and Lyra headed straight for the throne room. "This way," Lyra said, running down a silver hallway. "My uncle never left the royal tower. He'll be waiting there." They reached the tall door of the throne room. Reed stopped and looked at her. "Are you ready?" Lyra looked calm, but fire burned in her eyes. "I've waited for this moment my whole life." They stepped inside. The throne room had changed. The walls were lined with dark banners instead of royal blue. The light was dim, and the royal symbols were gone. At the far end sat Lord Renox, dressed in black armor with red eyes glowing from his helmet. Several elite guards stood at his side. "So," Renox said, rising from the throne, "the lost daughter returns." "You stole everything from my family," Lyra said. "Now it ends," Renox laughed. "You think truth matters? Power is what rules now." Reed stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time to change the rules." The guards attacked. The room exploded into chaos. Lyra moved with speed and precision, fighting like a true warrior. Reed covered her back, firing with careful aim. One by one, the guards fell. Renox pulled a long plasma blade and charged at Lyra. The two clashed in the center of the room. Sparks flew. Reed tried to help, but another guard held him back. Lyra fought with grace and fury. Renox was stronger, but she was faster. She dodged his heavy strikes, looking for an opening. Finally, she found it. She knocked the blade from his hand and pointed her blaster at his chest. Renox froze. "You won't kill me," he said. "You're too soft, just like your mother." Lyra's eyes filled with anger, but she didn't fire. "No," she said. "I don't need to kill you. The galaxy already saw your crimes." A screen lit up behind her. Kale had broadcast the entire battle. Every word Renox said was recorded. Across the stars, people were watching. Renox looked around, realizing the truth. It was over. Later, as the smoke cleared and the palace was secured, Lyra stood once more in the throne room, this time as its rightful ruler. The rebels stood around her, quiet and proud. Juno approached and bowed. "The soldiers have surrendered. The Garnock leaders are retreating." Reed stepped forward. "You did it, Lyra." She turned to him. "No, we did it." She touched the royal seal on her chest and looked up at the sky through the tall windows. "My family is gone, but their dream is still alive. Peace, justice, a better world." Then she looked back at the people around her. "And we'll build it together." That night, the palace was quiet again, but this time there was peace, not fear. Reed stood alone on the balcony, watching the stars. Lyra joined him. She now wore a simple robe, no armor, no crown. "You're leaving soon, aren't you?" she asked. Reed nodded. "Earth's waiting. But I'll come back. If you'll need me." "I will," she said with a soft smile. "This was just the beginning." Reed looked at her. "You're not a servant. You're not just a princess. You're a force of nature." Lyra laughed. "And you, Reed, are more than a warrior. You're a friend." They stood in silence, watching the galaxy heal one star at a time. A soft golden light shone over the city of Zerthar Prime. The storms had cleared. The skies were blue for the first time in years. People came out of hiding. Flags of rebellion were lowered and replaced with symbols of peace. Soldiers laid down their weapons. The battle was over. Inside the grand palace, Lyra stood at the top of the stone steps. She wore royal robes, not heavy with gold, but simple, marked with her house's crest. Around her stood thousands of citizens, watching with hope. Beside her stood Reed, dressed in clean black armor, a medal on his chest. He looked out at the people, unsure how he had become a part of all this. Lyra stepped forward and raised her hand. "My people," she said. For years, we have lived in the shadow of lies. Our voices were silenced. Our history was erased. But today, truth has returned. The crowd cheered. She continued, I do not stand here as your ruler by force, but by right and by your will. I promise a future built on justice, not fear. On peace, not power. Reed watched her, proud. She had grown so much from the silent, watchful woman he first met in chains. Now she stood tall, unshaken, unafraid. When the speech ended, the crowd clapped and shouted her name, Lyra, Lyra. Later, inside the royal chamber, Reed sat on a bench, holding a small bag. Lyra entered, a warm smile on her face. You were great out there, Reed said. You helped me get here, she replied. I didn't forget that. Reed looked down. I have to go soon. Lyra's smile faded slightly. Back to Earth, he nodded. They want a report. Some council wants to give me a medal and ask how a human got mixed up in a royal rebellion. Lyra laughed softly. You should tell them the truth, Reed smirked. They wouldn't believe me. There was a pause. Lyra stepped closer. You could stay. Reed looked into her eyes. You really want that? She nodded. Not because I need protection. Not because I'm weak, but because you matter to me. Reed's voice softened. You matter to me too. More than I expected. They stood close now, no blasters. No enemies. Just silence and something real. But Reed slowly took a step back. I'll come back, he said. Just let me finish what I started on Earth, then I'll return. No more running, Lyra nodded, though her eyes held a little sadness. I'll be waiting. The next morning, Reed prepared his small ship for departure. The landing bay was quiet, except for Kale checking systems and Juno discussing defense plans with other officers. Lyra arrived just before launch. She handed Reed a small metal cube. What's this? He asked. A royal access key, she said. It opens any door in the Dominion. Just in case you come back during troubled times. Reed placed it carefully in his jacket. Thank you. As he turned to go, Lyra called out, Reed. He looked back. Be safe. He gave her a nod, then entered the ship. As Reed flew away. From Zerthar Prime, the planet grew smaller behind him. But something inside him felt fuller, like he had left a piece of himself there, and taken something important in return. In space, he received a message from Earth's Galactic Embassy. Welcome home, champion. We are ready for your report. Please proceed to the council station above Mars. Reed smiled. He wasn't just a fighter now. He was a witness to something bigger. A lost princess had taken back her future and maybe changed the galaxy along the way. Back on Zerthar Prime, days passed. Lyra met with leaders, signed new laws, freed prisoners, and rebuilt her broken government. She never forgot the faces of those who helped her. One evening, she stood at the royal balcony again, holding a small hologram Reed had left behind. Photo of both of them after the battle, covered in dust and smiling. Kale entered quietly. You miss him? He asked. Lyra nodded. Yes, he'll be back, Kale said. Humans have strange loyalty. But when they give their word, they mean it. Lyra smiled. I know. 3 weeks later, a ship approached Zerthar Prime. It was small, fast, and bore the symbol of Earth. In the control room, Lyra looked up. The guards were confused. No message, no clearance code. Should we scan for weapons? Lyra shook her head. No need. I know that ship. She walked quickly to the landing bay. The door opened. Reed stepped out, dressed in Earth uniform but smiling. You didn't think I'd stay away, did you? He said. Lyra didn't say anything at first. Then, for the first time in public, she pulled him into a hug. Welcome home, she whispered. That night, there was no war. No fear, no running, just stars in the sky, and 2 people, once strangers from different worlds, standing side by side, ready to build something new. A new dawn had begun. And the galaxy was watching.